Hey, I want to show off the sync test running because it works, but it's also kind of works on my machine, and so I might need help making it work everywhere. Uh, let's see. We're going to show it off running in Party Kit land. So what I've got here is a checkout of the Connect repo right next to a checkout of the Fireproof repo in this little tiny tab. And then in the Connect repo, there is a test directory with some test apps, and we're in the Party Kit app. And I'll go ahead and get that running. What I already did here was build. Well, I'll go ahead and do that too, just so you see the latest. All right. So what we do in the main is just pnpm build fireproof, and that's going to go through and give us a fresh tgz file. And then over here, uh, you can find this command in the chat, and that installs that fresh tgz file from the next door directory. And you have to be online for this install to run. I don't know why. Okay, so now what I want to run is just the connector test to show off this sync. But first, I got to do some setup. As I said, I need to run that Party Kit app so that 1999 endpoint is available. And then there's better ways to do this. There's command line flags and stuff. I'm just gonna go specify that I want the Party Kit app to run, or the Party Kit set of tests. This is in the vitest workspace file here in the Connect repo. And if this were all uncommented, you could do dash dash project. But at this point, anyway, I only want to check in the ones that run green. Um, so what's happening with this Party Kit thing? Well, this is happening. It is um, running all the core fireproof tests with Party Kit as like quote unquote local storage, the only storage the database has. It's running this test that was really more of like to help the implementation proceed. And then this connector test is what we're going to be talking about. And not all of these include the connector test. And I think the connector test only works on, or should only work on, AWS Netlify and PartyKit at the moment. But we're going to run this test. And that means we also want to find the matching setup file here that's going to get executed. So that's this. And all it's doing is registering the protocol, setting the storage URL, and then this is important. If we want these legacy style um, connector gateways to work with the current new gateway stuff, then you can tell it's important because it mixes camel case and underscores, which is that's how you can tell something is important. All right, so you'll see that same URL on, or that same URL extension here on the Netlify and the AWS setup pages, and that's just so you know what's going on. Okay, now if we go into the connector test, this is again something that an engineer could fix real quick, I'm sure. Then you want to just change this to Party Kit and this to Party Kit. And now if we go and we run this connector test, we're going to get some cool stuff. So that's last test here. Creates database A, syncs it to endpoint B, creates database C, syncs it with that same endpoint, and then writes some changes into the new database, and they go up and show up in the original database, two-way sync, all that. So if you want to see that test happening, and that runs on all the connectors that support the. I think it should just run on all the connectors once we get it tidied up. But where the magic is as we go through these assertions. Well, one thing is the ability to open a database with the same name as the source database, but with empty files. And so this is just a little hack to get that done. This whole thing makes me think we want to make it easy to set up the remote name. You'll see that here in a second. So like this, right? Like wouldn't have had to do all that fancy business if we could just say that our local name was DB name plus one and our remote name was DB name. But whatever. So we sync database to, and when it's all done, it's got the docs that we loaded into before each, and that's so cool. And now we write here something to the secondary, and we wait a little bit, and there it is on the primary. And these waits could be better. They could be a lot better, I'm sure. That works, and I'm super happy about it. I want to show off one more thing. This is the party kit index TS. This is kind of like, well, it's what's on the other end of this. Everything about this could be better. So like the way this is named, these should probably just be a connect function that comes as the default from the index TS off of all these or something. And instead of having, or at least have this be a function and then maybe some other named functions next to it. So yeah, this could get a lot of cleanup. But what I've done here is, I don't even like this. It should be like this. It should be like the URL that somebody who doesn't know about Fireproof wants to use. And then we dress it up and put the things that are necessary on it before we send it to the connection factory. And then this connectx I've made work as it should. So let's see, I'll just bring that up real quick, and then I think I'm about done here. So didn't have to change much here, changed a little bit here. The main thing I did was make sure that it was connecting to the database name and not the database URL. Maybe that could be more finely cleaned up, but this makes it work like how people are expecting for now. And this is, most of it is where the remote meta gets written and read from and subscribed. And storage didn't change much, again, except for just getting it to work like it had before with the naming. Oh yeah, one last thing in here. All these gateways, the three that I mentioned that are AWS Netlify Party Kit, are a little bit different from the others in that they do key management in the legacy way. So there's diffs you can find to show how this looks. But if we go inside of one of these, they're all going to be the same in that when you go to do let's find it. A get meta. This name stuff kind of doesn't matter. We got to make sure the name includes the index designation, otherwise it acts funny. That's a little cleanup I did. But the important thing is that when we get the data from the remote, this unparses, or this opens up that data payload and finds the key that the remote has shared with us and sets it locally. And so this makes the sync work where the encryption it makes the files opaque to the storage API, but the meta API just shares the key. So that's how Fireproof 018 worked, and this preserves that behavior, which is mostly for easy setup with those three gateways I mentioned. So if we look in here, it's going to be the same thing. There's these long named functions that come off the BS object. So input here. Oh yeah, if it's meta, just go ahead and reserialize the payload to include the crypto key so that whoever goes and loads it later can have that for their runtime. So that was the other big change I made. And then the last thing I guess that's interesting is this meta store keeps track of the parents, which is so also legacy behavior, how Fireproof knows which diffs to send to the cloud, but I had to go through and actually implement that. So now the sync should be working smoothly, but that's part of why I'm so excited is to load balance, or to load test it across 3 or 4 open tabs on different Chrome profiles and see what kind of errors come out when it's trying to sync. Usually that's a really productive debugging day once we get the workbench setup. All right, thanks, y'all.